The fact of the matter is that I genuinely feel like Barcelona are the closest to being the perfect team. Structurally, I think what they did last season was next to brilliant. And if they had better personnel, they could easily match what Manchester City is doing. But what looked like a success in their defense last season, for me, I don't think they can repeat it next season. And based on the personnel that they have, and based on some hidden numbers also. So I name it Barcelona's hidden defensive problems. Now, on the face of things, Barca had a fantastic defense. Last season, they conceded just 20 goals in the La Liga. That was the best, on paper, the least goals conceded when it comes to the top 5 leagues in Europe. Look at the shots they conceded. 338, 99 shots on target the entire season. That was also the best in the top 5 leagues. But when you go deeper, that's when it starts becoming. Now, this was the first red flag that I saw. So, the reason why people ask me, if you look at something on the surface, what will prompt you into going to dig deeper? Now, when Barcelona faced Manchester United in the Europa League last season, during the build-up to the game, weeks before the game, I was looking at their form in the La Liga, and I was quite disturbed, and I felt like they could give Man United problems. But after those 2 games, I saw a bigger picture, and I asked myself, when you look at Barca in La Liga and you compare that to what they did in Europe, in the Champions League and the Europa League, there was a huge disparity. And football is very scientific. It's not by luck. So something must have been wrong somewhere. So that is why I started digging deeper. Now, this is the first red flags that hit me. If you look at the gap that Barca had in terms of their shot on target conceded, the gap that they had between themselves and the second place team. Yet, when it came to percentages of their shot on target percentage, that is a percentage of shots that
resulted in goals.
Not in goals, as in that were on target, as against the ones the shots that were conceded.
Off target.
They dropped to 3rd. So for me, I'm asking myself, why is a team that is so good at keeping teams at bay in terms of taking shots, but when it comes to on target and you weight per percentage, they are dropping to 3rd. 3rd on paper is good. But again, when you look at the raw numbers and you look at how much they had gapped teams in the general sense of things, as in shots conceded in general, then it started giving me a bit of problem.
Isn't that because maybe the shots that they are preventing, they're doing such a good job that the shots that are getting on target must be so good in order to get on target?
So let me just go on to explain. So in essence, they are, in fact, per the numbers, they are considered a lead shot on goal.
Yes.
So whether those on target, whether those blocked.
Shots
when it comes
goal,
to when it comes to shots on target, shots that they are coming towards the goalkeeper. When you look at the percentage of that, then they drop to number 3. So in terms of raw numbers, you expect that if they are conceding least amount of shots, such a small amount of shots, then it should also correspond with the shot on target percentage. But that's not what we saw. Now, when you look at their the registered goals minus the XG, as in the goals that they conceded minus the XG they were supposed to concede, it was minus 16. So in essence, that's 16.8. So let's say 17 goals. So in essence, last season, Barcelona were supposed to concede an extra 17 goals. If you look at Ter Stegen's goals minus XG, as in goals conceded minus XG, he kept 8 goals away. He prevented 8 goals. So his was minus 8. So half of those goals...
He outperformed his XG by 8.
By 8. So if you take 8 away from this, 8 away from 17, that's like 9. So it's either it was extremely poor finishing, it can come with goal line clearances, things like that. But when you combine the whole, per the clarity of chances, Barca was supposed to have conceded, and this is just the league, this is just 17 more goals. Now if you add that 17 to the 20 goals they've conceded, that is 37 goals they've conceded, and that makes them a very, top club in terms of how they, if you compare that to Man City, to Arsenal, it takes them along that level. And that didn't show how good their defense is also. But you look at Ter Stegen's save rate in the league, his save percentage rate in the league, it was 84%. And this is the highest we've seen Barcelona do since Pep Guardiola's team of 2011. The season they won the Champions League with Messi beating Man U 3-1. Yes, 2010, 2011, Victor Valdez. That was the highest Barcelona have achieved since then. So that just shows you how immense their goalkeeper was. But I usually don't like to use just the save rate percentage to judge how good a goalkeeper is, because quality of shots also come in. If somebody gets a one-on-one and he plays a team effort and I save it, it's very different from if somebody has a one, he fires a ball and that is heading for the top corner and claw it out. It all comes down to a save, but the post shot XG is higher for the one going to the top corner than the one coming straight at me. Now, this is when the disparity starts showing itself. So, Barcelona in the league, they average 8 shots conceded in every game.
Okay.
That's 8 shots conceded in general. But when it comes to shots on targets, they conceded 2.6 in the La Liga. When they went to the Champions League, they were conceding 12 shots conceded, so that goes up. And then 5 shots on target.
That's also on the high. On the high.
But if you look at the average possession, 64% in the league, 65% in the league. So that's when I started seeing football is scientific, it's not by luck. Structurally, they are doing exactly what they are doing in the league, but the level of quality in the Champions League is very different from that in the La Liga. So in as much as in the La Liga, they were supposed to concede 17 extra goals, but based on excellent goalkeeping and just poor finishing, they post the numbers that they post. In the Champions League, players are not going to miss those chances. Now, this is the average goals they conceded per the competitions they played.
Okay.
In total, they conceded 12 goals in the Champions League in 6 games. That's an average of 2 goals per game.
True.
In the Europa League, they faced Man United twice. They conceded 4 goals. That's another 2 goals per game. But in the league, 20 goals, that's 0.5. So on the face of things, in the league, they were much better. But as I've told you, the post-shot XG minus the goals that they conceded was supposed to be an extra 17. So that would have taken this number to about 1 point something if they had conceded, or just 0.9, just about 1 shot per game. Now, you ask the question, how do Barcelona defend? Okay, if you look at Barca's turnovers, they tend to, and the turnover is winning the ball in the opposition half, about 40 meters close to the opposition goal. If you look at how Barca defend, they defend very high up, they press very high. So their turnovers were number 5 in the whole of Europe. Okay. There was Bayern Munich on top, Lyon, Athletic Bilbao, Manchester City, and then Barcelona. Okay. When it came to high turnovers, winning the ball 40 meters away from the opposition goal. So that is in the final third. Okay. So Barca are very aggressive, pressing from the front.
Okay.
If you translate that to Barca's pass per defensive action, that is basically the number of passes, the average number of passes that the opposition will take before you act. Okay. So they use that like a pressing trigger start. Barcelona were on top, the whole of Europe. So Barca tend to press quicker than any other team, almost immediately, quicker than any other team.
They're press happy.
Exactly. So structurally, you can see they are doing the right things, and that is why they are winning the balls high up. And in fact, in terms of turnovers in the La Liga, Sergio Busquets had the highest. Now, if you look at where Sergio Busquets places, where his starting position is a bit deep, you can tell that this team pushes a lot higher because they are winning the ball around this area, and Sergio Busquets is winning it more than anybody else on the pitch. Now, this is how Barcelona started on paper. But what tends to happen was that Gavi comes in here, they create that box that they like to create to dominate possession, and then Balde tends to have the free run up and down here. So Barcelona also a lot of times tend to focus on one side. So you see a lot of these clusters happening. Then they isolate whoever was here, be it Rafinha or Dembele. So this is my thinking on why I feel...
So it's overload and switch?
Overload and switch. And this line is much higher. So this is what I was analyzing, especially the goals they conceded, goals and chances they conceded in the Champions League. What I saw was...
This is your theory of how it happened.
Of how it happened. The Champions League teams were smarter, first of all. The quality is higher. What you saw against Barca, against Bayern Munich, and against Inter Milan, where Bayern and Inter didn't build from the back. They didn't play too many passes at the back because they know that once they pass this trigger, because Barca tend to be very aggressive in the final third, once they pass this trigger and they get the ball within this zone, the Barcelona defense is isolated. And I'm pinning it down to these guys, Christensen, Koundé, Araujo's individual stats in terms of winning his duels are very high. He does very well. But Barca don't have individually gifted defenders. So they tend to concede, a lot of their goals from transition. And that is smart because a team that tends to possess a lot of the ball, the only way you are going to get them is in transition. But you see the likes of Manchester City. So I compared it to Manchester City, I compared it to Arsenal. When you look at teams who are targeted in transition, Man City and Arsenal, and you look at the individual doors that their defenders are doing, they are actually good. So they are not as exposed as Barcelona in defense. So you see Ruben Diaz having and winning a lot of his duels, because when the team is exposed and he actually has to do defending, he's defending it.
Yeah.
But with Barcelona, with the exception of Araujo, Christensen and Koundé, you can't really not enough aggression, especially when the spaces are so wide because the teams have broken free. So you look at this, for example, and it's always good to give. This is Bayern playing from the back
against Barcelona in the group stages.
Exactly. So there are going to be 2 passes. Upamecano goes long, they win the first ball, and then you see the aggression with which the right back quickly wins the ball from what's his name? This is Baldi. So it's literally like 3 passes. So just watch how it progresses. Long pass comes in.
I just click the volume button there, the mute button. Mute it for me. Thank you.
Yeah, sorry, why? Exactly.
Yes.
So Barcelona have lost the ball in this zone, and that's what I'm telling you. Once you be able to bypass that first zone into the second pressing zone,
look at
once
the numbers.
They're exposed.
Suddenly, Bayern have outnumbered them.
Suddenly, and it's literally one pass. It's literally one pass, and it goes straight to.
Now for Sadio Mane, he's very good.
And it goes straight to Sadio Mane, and the ball is in the back of the net. Now this reoccurred several times during the game, and several times during the season. Now this is Inter Milan against Barcelona. Okay. If you look at this, and those who watch the game will remember. What's his name? This is Carnot wins the ball just in the center. Another transition, and this is where individual defending actually counts, because most teams who have a lot of possession of the ball, when they lose the ball in transition, they're a bit open.
Okay.
And when you have very good defenders, they can deal with the situations. But this is Lautaro Martinez against Eric Garcia in a one-on-one duel, and he's completely left exposed. This is poor defending. Any other team, Saliba will deal with this. Ruben Diaz will deal with this. Most of the top possession-based teams with very good defenders will deal with this. But Barcelona are left with individuals in the back line who can deal with some of these petty things. And in the Champions League, you will pay for it. Now,
so there's an individual quality issue.
Individual quality issue. And teams have figured it out. Now, this is Man United versus Barcelona. Man United pressed, and I told you, it's either you quickly bypass the first press or you press them in the middle zone when they are left, when the midfield is very left or the defense is exposed in the middle.
Okay.
So this is Man U. United are not really a pressing team. But in this game, throughout the game, they pressed high up and then in the middle zone. When Barcelona got the ball into the middle block, United pressed because there's space to be exploited. So this is Casemiro going straight. Keep quiet. This is Casemiro going straight, and it presents a huge opportunity. This time around, of course, Ter Stegen saved it. But these are some of the situational things that just shows how open Barca are. So my point is, this team structurally, honestly, if you look at how they play their football, for me, if let's say this was a Saliba, or this was a Ruben Diaz, or anybody around that in that profile, let's say a Timber or a Disasi, somebody who is actually good at defending, physically strong, can close spaces quickly, I feel this Barcelona team, they will be far ahead. And what we saw in the Champions League last season, where they finished in the 3rd position, they go to the Europa League.
Get kicked out by United.
I think that if they're able to fix this backline,
so there are 2 good defenders away from reaching the next level.
I'm telling you, because look, this is probably the most difficult team to get the ball off in Europe.
How does the absence of Busquets affect the way they played last season coming into this new campaign?
I think, and I've said it again, I don't think they have a problem in this zone. Because if you watch Oriol Romero in preseason, he's basically been asked to do what Busquets was doing. Yeah. Of course, when it comes to intelligence, in terms of passing, he may not have the same ability. But he has a bit more tenacity, and he can close spaces a bit more better than Busquets. Busquets is smart, so his positional awareness doesn't necessarily need him to be running around and making tackles. But I think the system is working on this side. So they don't really have a problem with this side. Even in fact, in this side also, in the defense, when it comes to progressive play, if you look at these guys and their numbers and how they help in Barcelona building up from the back, they are one of the best. The thing is, you need to fix the vulnerability in transition because it runs across every team that has possession or every team that is very possession-centered. With Man City, with Arsenal, they face the same problem. The only reason why they are not left as exposed as Barcelona were in Europe last season is because the personnel at the back can actually defend.
So what does Xavi do here? Does he just ship out these guys and bring in new defenders, or how does he move this team to the next level?
The thing is, frankly, they don't have money. Okay. Barcelona don't have money and they don't have the luxury to change this now. So I feel it's either they have to pray that Ter Stegen repeats that
top performance from last season,
or if they get a less difficult group than they did in last season's Champions League, where they had Bayern and Inter in their group.
That's tough.
Maybe they can progress, and of course, the lack of the draw can also help you. Maybe you get through your group, you go into the round of 16, you go and face we've seen it several times. Maybe they can progress, but once they come up against the big boys are certainly going to expose them with these individuals' defensive abilities in the back line.
Wonderful stuff.